city council meeting. And we'll start with roll call.
Lane,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
Murdoch,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
and Councilman McDaniel is absent this evening, Mayor.
All right. You please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, first up is our consent agenda. I approve the minutes of the council meeting and the pay ordinance 822. Have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Walker,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
I'd like to thank Ronnie McDaniel, even though he's not here, for his time served. He spent a lot of time working on different projects, and I'm sure gonna miss all that. I've had 22 years in city council and almost 5 years as mayor. I'm having quite a battle with my health. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't give it up. So, I'll turn it over to Landon for the swearing in.
Rick, would you come down too, please?
Okay.
Councilman Walker. Rick has served on our city council for 8 years, and we would like to give him a plaque in appreciation for your service for those actually 8.5 years
Right.
since we had a Kansas law change. But want to thank you for that, and for those of you who might not know Councilman Walker, he is going to be sworn in later this evening as our new mayor, and he also spent, 8 years on the school board?
8 years on school board, 2 years on planning commission.
So he's familiar with the majority of our city government, and thank you again, Rick, for your service.
Thank you.
And now, Mayor, Debbie, come on up here. We know that behind every great man, there's an even better woman, right? Yeah. So Debbie has supported Tim for about 30 years in various city government. He served on the park board, and as you heard him say, he served 2 years on the planning commission and another 22 years as city council and 4.5 years as our mayor. So that's a lot of years of service, Tim. And I'd like to give you this plaque, and then Debbie, if you will help him. I know he's going to want to put these up in the shop where the cars are, so we're going to give you your mayor signs to put in the hot rod shop. And
They hold them up the other way.
Yeah, picture time.
Thank you.
on a personal note, thank you, because Tim was on the city council back in 1998 when Mayor Steve Pruden started talking to me about whether or not I would take the job as the city clerk in this community. And I said, like, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, it's your hometown. People are going to love you or they're not. And Tim kept talking to me about it, and a couple of other council members at that time. And I must say, it's been the best ride of my life so far, and I'm looking forward to a few more years of that. But Tim, thank you for believing in me and for supporting me for almost 20 years as your city clerk. And I'm going to miss you.
Miss you too. Might go that way. See here.
Patrick.
Roll the chair. Thanks.
I think he's just gonna sit down there, Chuck, if you wanna stay. I think he's just sitting down.
Isn't that,
Yeah, he's coming out. Yeah, we're gonna bring a chair.
All right. Now for the next part of the evening, Mr. Rob Daniels, would you step forward? You would repeat after me. I, Robert Daniels,
I, Robert Daniels,
do hereby solemnly affirm
do hereby solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully uphold the Constitution of the United States,
I will faithfully uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the ordinances and code of ethics of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
and the ordinances and code of ethics of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
in the performance of my duties.
in the performance of my duties.
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of an elected council member
of an elected council member
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
for a 4-year term
for a 4-year term,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome, council member. Mr. Honley. Ready?
Ready.
All right. I, Kevin Hanemichael,
I, Kevin Hanemichael,
do hereby solemnly affirm
do hereby solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
uphold the Constitution of the United States,
uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the ordinances and code of ethics
and the ordinances and the code of ethics
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
in the performance of my duties.
in the performance of my duties.
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of an elected council member
of an elected council member
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
for a 4-year term
for a 4-year term
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Could have brought one from Clinton.
No, different color.
ready?
Okay, here we go. I, Richard A. Walker,
I, Richard A. Walker,
do hereby solemnly affirm
do hereby solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
uphold the Constitution of the United States,
uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the ordinances and code of ethics
and the ordinances and code of ethics
of the City of DeSoto,
of
Kansas,
the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
in the performance of my duties.
in the performance of my duties.
I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the mayor of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
of the mayor of the City of DeSoto, Kansas,
for a 4-year term
for a 4-year term,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. All right, everyone, thank you for being meeting here. We're going to take about a 5-minute recess so that all of you can greet Mayor Meunier and also our new mayor and council members. So stick around after that. We'll continue with the meeting. But for right now, we'll take 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see you now. Congratulations. Thanks very much. Mayor Walker.
Yes, from your wife, yes.
Go right ahead.
I kind of cut it wrong. It should have started back there. You guys
We'll give your dad.
I'll get a keepsake from your...
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. I recognize it.
You got it.
Congratulations. How are you? Pretty exciting to be here. Good to see you out.
Congratulations.
75. Are you guys out?
Are you want the grip? Thank you. Were you here for I knew you were. I knew you were.
Same chassis. Yeah, and then Les started testing. Oh, that's right. Somebody got a and we never heard.
All right, we'll get going again. Our next item on the agenda is our call to public. During this time, members of the public are welcome to comment about any matter relating to city business that's not listed on tonight's agenda. And I understand tonight there are probably a number of you that are here to express your concerns about matters relating to fire district. So before we open the floor to public comment, I'd like to share with you what the city's role is in the management and operation of the fire district and to provide you with some ground rules for the comment period tonight. First of all, let's start with the background. The Northwest Consolidated Fire District was formed in 2009 when the City of DeSoto Department merged with Johnson County Rural Fire District Number 3. When that merger occurred, the city relinquished direct supervisory authority for the fire district or fire department over to an appointed fire district board of directors. The Northwest Consolidated Fire District is governed by a 5-member board whose members are appointed by the City of DeSoto and the county. The state law that was enacted to allow the creation of the district provides a formula for the appointments. 2 members are always appointed by the city, 2 members are always appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and then the 5th member rotates between a city and a Board of County Commissioner appointment on a 3-year basis. Board member qualifications: board members must be residents of the district, and DeSoto and the Board of County Commissioners can each not have more than 2 elected appointed officials on the board. As a city, we have not established any other formal qualifications for the position. The appointed board members serve at the pleasure of the entity who appointed them to the board. However, again, neither the City of DeSoto nor the county have direct supervisory authority over the Northwest Consolidated Fire District Board. Regarding the comments, in order to keep from going too long tonight, I would ask that we would keep our total comment period to around 30 minutes. We would limit our comments of an individual commenter to 4 minutes. If you would like to provide comment, please stand and wait to be recognized by the mayor. When you're called upon, please proceed to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Your time will begin once you've stated your name and address. Typically, the council will not respond directly to your comments unless they request a clarification on any of your statements. We ask that you would please direct all statements to the council as a body. We ask that you refrain from using profanity or other language that might be disruptive to the orderly progress and process of the meeting, and that you please refrain from engaging in conversations with individual council members. Lastly, we ask you to refrain from making comments of a personal nature regarding others. And as audience members, we ask that you be respectful of the speakers who are at the podium, listen, and refrain from making comments from the audience. Do we have anyone who would wish to address the council tonight? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations to the mayor and the 2 new council members and the outgoing folks as well. I didn't count against my time, did it, Mayor?
No, it did not. No,
Okay. And thank you for, Mr. Mayor, and council for outlining the structure of the Northwest Johnson County Fire Department. That'll save me a little bit of time, too. So I'm going to chip that part off. There's a letter that I handed to Ms. McPherson, whom she may have already distributed, that I put out to the Soto City Council members as well as a few other folks, including Mike Brown, Commissioner. Mr. Brown, thank you for being here today as well. I've contacted Mr. Brown regarding an issue with the fire department, who declined to involve himself in specific fire board matters, stating that the appointed board members are respected community folks and with histories of ethical community service who have been charged with management of the fire district. I have no reason to argue this with Mr. Brown. However, it has come to my attention and to the attention of others in the community that several members of the fire district board have attempted to negotiate an end to the employment of the current chief, even though the position is structured as an at-will employment agreement. In fact, a special meeting of the fire board has been called for 4 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, January the 9th, which would lead one to believe that action regarding personnel may be forthcoming. I understand that it's a responsibility of the currently appointed fire board members to provide civilian direction and guidance to the department and to supervise, evaluate, and employ the fire district chief. I also understand it's difficult for board members to communicate publicly about personnel issues related to the supervision and retention of the chief. In other words, there may be some things that none of us know about here in this room that we'll never know. That said, given that the chief has not been terminated for cause, or is not going to be, it doesn't seem like, rather he's been asked to resign or make a buyout offer to the board, there may be something amiss among the fire board members. In fact, 2 fire board members, Mr. McDaniel and Mr. Bedford, have clear conflicts of interest in this matter. It may therefore not come as a surprise that these 2 board members have been the primary communicators regarding the request for the chief's resignation. Board member McDaniel has a son on the department payroll who was recently promoted to lieutenant. Board member Bedford has a nephew on the department payroll who coincidentally has also recently been promoted to lieutenant. It's not likely that the public will ever know what this beef is between the board and the chief. Generally, it is not good business practice to share non-elected personnel issues outside of the board's executive session. Board member Bedford has declined to discuss the situation with me, and I do not necessarily disagree with that stance. That said, common ethics would dictate that the board members with nepotistic conflicts within the department recuse themselves from participating in any debate or action regarding the employment of someone who supervises their relatives. So I'm probably running out of time, but our chief has done, by most standards outlined in the letter, he's brought the department quite a ways, both budgetarily and in performance and in accountability. I will admit that the chief is my neighbor, has been for 10 years. I can attest that he's a good man. In summary, I'm asking for the City Council's involvement and intervention in this matter prior to tomorrow's 4 p.m. Fire District Board meeting, particularly asking that the Council resolve to its appointed fire board members and those appointed by Commissioner Brown to recuse themselves from further discussion, debate, and certainly from voting on any action regarding any personnel who supervise their relatives. Thank you for your time and for your service to the DeSoto community.
Thank you. Patrick, could you elaborate or refresh my memory on what our ethics policy is and what we consider a nepotism or nepotistic relationship?
Sure. The city code, which is online in chapter 1, it has a code of ethics, and within that code of ethics, it does define, relationship, and actually for the council, I just printed out some copies here. There's also the county resolution, a copy of the county resolution forming the board is there as well, just for your general. And by the way, this was something I just came to my attention late this afternoon, so I haven't, had a lot of time to devote to it. But under the city's code of ethics, you as a public officer are deemed to have an interest in the affairs of any person related to you by blood or marriage in a degree closer than the 4th degree. And it also indicates that a divorce or separation between spouses shall not be deemed to terminate any such relationship. But under the city's code of ethics, the city attorney, once notified of an allegation of a potential, something that might not be consistent with the city's code of ethics, I'm charged with looking into that. And so this afternoon, I did reach out to Frank Jenkins. I have not heard back from him, but I would like an opportunity to talk to him, and then also perhaps the county attorney, Larry McCauley, who was instrumental in forming this district. The other copy I gave you is the resolution that formed this fire district, and if you turn to this would be paragraph 6. The very end of that paragraph indicates that appointments made by the city of DeSoto or by the Board of County Commissioners are subject to any other policies and procedures of the city or board relating to board appointments that are not inconsistent with this resolution. So I know that's a lot of information, but essentially the questions that I need to get to the bottom of are, does this city code of ethics, at least as to the city appointed officials, does this code of ethics follow them as part of their role on the fire district? And so that's something that I'll be looking into tomorrow. And like I said, I'll reach out to Frank Jenkins and also the county attorney and get their input. Obviously, I don't have any inside information either, so I don't know if there's a quote-unquote interest that's at play here. But given that the claim has been made, it is something that I'll need to do some due diligence on.
So refresh my memory. Frank Jenkins is the
counsel for the district.
Okay.
And then Larry McCauley is the head, he's one of the head county attorneys, and for example, he's the gentleman who has been maintaining the roster of all the appointments that you guys have seen as part of making appointments. So both of them have been involved with this from the outset, and so I think it's important to involve them. So I'll be doing that. Obviously we won't have another meeting or opportunity. All I can tell you is I'll, obviously do what I think our policy requires, but without having a lot of further information, it's tough for me to, even project.
Should we request that the fire district maybe delay their special meeting tomorrow until we have answers to these questions? At least we can make
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate, and I'm happy to give that message, or it may be better if the consensus of the council is to go that route. Maybe the mayor, you can make that official request of
try and be present at the meeting and make the request, or
yeah, that probably would be even better.
Okay.
If schedule allow that.
Mayor, can I ask a question? So, is Walt McDaniel the chair of the fire board? Because he's the one who, on the notice for the meeting, Walt McDaniel's chairman, so he's a city appointee as well.
He is not a city.
No,
appointee.
He's not, he's county
This
appointee.
appointee.
Okay.
The
So
city-
it's wrong on the county's website. Well, on the county's website, Johnson County, Kansas, for the Northwest Consolidated Fire District lists Walt McDaniel as Representative DeSoto.
He was up until last year, I believe, and then that fifth position that rotates between us and the county went to the
Went to
county.
the county,
and
they
retained
appointed
him.
him.
So
And do
he
we
started
know,
off.
have they filled all 5 positions?
Yeah, all 5 positions are full.
Okay, so they're just way behind here.
So
On the
Doug
on the
and
county's
Steve
website.
are
Did
on
you-
there. Do you know who the other 2 are besides Doug Becker and Steve Pruden?
This,
Yeah.
And Walt.
and Walt,
Bob Garrett.
Bob Garrett is a city attorney.
Steve Pruden.
Steve's listed on here, so one
Bob
more.
Garrett is a city appointee.
Okay, so there's one more missing.
Jay Lang, the county appointee, has been on it almost since the beginning, I believe.
Well, I would think that, the city obviously has a vested interest in the service that we receive from the fire district. And the quality of that service is a direct function of the leadership of the district, being the fire chief. So I think there should be at least some, maybe if we don't know what personnel issues are, at least some dialogue as to how we're served as a customer.
Anyone else wish to address the council? You can come forward.
Hi, Brooks Young. Address is 9624 Corliss Court. Thanks for letting me speak. Thanks for coming in here. I just really wanted to, address a couple things. Mainly, what I wanted to say was I wanted to recognize the current state that the fire department is in at this point from the ISO standpoint. If you're familiar with what an ISO rating is, it's basically a rating that comes in, it stands for Insurance Services Rating. And since the inception of the Consolidated Fire Department in 2009, came in, it was a 6. And the ratings from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. They take that rating, they have an independent company that will come in and basically rate the potential fire risk, and the response of your fire department. And starting at a 6, since its inception, what I think I read in the DeSoto Discovery, or Discovery DeSoto magazine, was that it was changed to a 3 in September. And I'm fairly certain that's a direct correlation of Mike Wimm's involvement as chief. What that does, as far as for me as an individual, not only does it actually potentially save me some money on my insurance rates, businesses. I actually spoke with my insurance representative today and asked him some questions about it, because to be honest, up until this came to my attention, I had really no clue what ISO stood for or what it really did affecting me. And he said individually, on average, we would probably save residents here, each household, about $150 a year on their rates. And of course, that's an average. But he said the big picture would be what it saves businesses with their insurance rates. He says that would be exponentially higher savings for the businesses. So I feel, that's one of the things Mike, with talking with Mike, I know him personally, and I know his devotion to firefighting. I mean, he's a retired firefighter from Shawnee, and he's basically devoted the vast majority of his life to doing that, and he's very passionate about it. I'm not saying that we did not have a good fire department before Mike's arrival. I definitely can say wholeheartedly, and I would imagine a couple thousand other people would say that they believe it improved when he showed up, and it's definitely better today than it was before he got here. Aside from that rating, I think it's important to realize the reasons why they put that rating in there. It's just like getting a safety rating on a vehicle. Yes, I'm happy it saves me maybe a few bucks every year, but the reality is it could actually save a family member. It could save total devastation of your house, your possessions. And again, that's a value that you can't put a dollar sign So I think that's really important to recognize that, and who's responsible for it. I guess the last thing is, I know you guys are looking into the accountability of the board. I think it's important to make sure that, you know, the board can stand behind whatever decision they decide to make in regarding keeping our chief or not. I think you can see that there's quite a few people here in support of Mike, and we do it because we believe in him and we know he believes in his cause. So with that, I just want to say thank you to the fire department for putting that work. I know it's not just one person who makes that department work, but I think they're working to strive to make it a better department for this whole community. As we grow, I think it becomes more and more important that we allow those kinds of services to grow. Obviously, I've lived here 10 years, and you know, we moved here because of the community, because of the school district, and you know, I'm happy that we did so, and I don't plan on moving anytime soon. I'm happy to see the changes that are being made. I think the housing development is impressive, and I think all that infrastructure that goes along with it should too. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else wishing to address the council tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations. My name is Mark Labarge, 9585 Corliss Court. I too am a neighbor. I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of training, and specifically fire training. You may be aware that last year there was a record high number of training hours logged by our fire department, specifically 7,200 hours. Okay, compare that to 2015, 2,253 hours. So clearly they're doing lots more training in preparation for bad things happening to all of us. I think that's a good thing. As a 30-year veteran of the military, I know the importance of training, and I applaud our chief for encouraging more training, better equipment to keep us in this century where we belong. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jim Hart, 30050 West 84th Street. I also worked with Chief Wim for many years on the fire department. I drove for him for many years. So we are friends and co-workers. And I'm here in support of not so much him, but what he has done for the city. I've been here for about 6 years now, and so I hear a lot about, you know, what the city has and what the city has come from. He tells me a lot. And I do know that he cares a lot about what the city and fire department stand for. Mike was our de facto training officer, and he was really dedicated to the improvement of the department. And a thing about Mike is he doesn't give out participation awards. He insists on a good job, and he insists on the best trainings you can have. And we were some of the best trained people there are on the fire department. So when I see what is happening with the fire board, it really disturbs me that there could be other things involved besides his performance record. And I think that needs to be looked into. And I think the city deserves to have that looked into. And I would appreciate it if you guys would find out what's going on with the fire board, because something isn't right. That's all I would say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none? Oh, sorry.
My name is Cynthia Yarnell. I live at 9586 Corliss Court. We built our house in DeSoto about 20 years ago. In almost less than 30 years, DeSoto's population has nearly tripled. We're now seeing development in commercial construction. We are seeing 122 apartment units are being built currently. We have a new grocery store. Fighting, I would assume, I'm not a firefighter, but I would believe that fighting fires on commercial properties is different, particularly apartment properties. I think that it's important that we continue to increase standards, maintain standards, and training for our fire department. I think Mike Quim is passionate. I know him personally. I do believe that he truly has DeSoto's best interests at heart, and I don't understand and there's obviously stuff that we don't know, whether they're personnel issues or, I don't know. It would be helpful to have a better understanding of what's going on, because by all accounts, he has improved our ISO rating from a 6 to a 3. I believe there are about 1,065 ISO rated fire departments in Kansas, and I believe about, and my statistics could be wrong, but less than 100 of those have an ISO rating of 3 or higher. I think it's impressive, and it's something that should be applauded. I am concerned that there may be nepotism. I don't know if that's the case, but if that is, that's very concerning. I believe that we need to evolve into a suburban community rather than a rural one. Home prices continue to increase. We are seeing an uptick in construction. Our retail revenue year over year, I believe, has increased about 12.5% in the past year. And I think that we deserve, all of us, residential and commercial, we deserve a fire department, and we deserve dedicated, highly skilled firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address? So I guess just to be clear, so what we will do is formally, I'll go to the meeting to, not to tell them what to do, but to ask that they would delay a decision or any action until we are able to have the question answered as to whether or not the city's ethics policy applies to the city appointees. Is that correct? Can you give me a letter or something that would help me relay that? And I would just to our fire department in the community does great things, and we appreciate their efforts. It's a great group of people that provide a great service to our community. So with that said, I think unless anybody else has a comment about anything other than the fire district issue, we'll move on with the rest of our agenda. Okay, item 3 is old business, and we do not have any, so we'll go to new business. 4A, Street Department Facility Report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For you is a report that actually Mike and I put together, worked on quite a bit. Actually, I wrote on it, and then I let him look at it, and he bled on it, and then I worked on it some more. And then he bled on it some more, so.
Well, you're making me out to be the bad guy.
But he gave me a lot of comments and direction, and we worked with our street department staff, interviewed them. Also, Ron Creason and myself went to several nearby communities, and recently, or actually in Baldwin City's case, are actually constructing a new street department. Actually, they're both Tonganoxie and Baldwin City have a public works department. We're just talking about our street department at this point. And basically what we came up with were some options that I think would be good for DeSoto to consider moving forward with the street department development. First of all, we did an inventory of the street department and our facility locations. The things that our street department does, of course, are the maintenance repair of streets, but they also take care of all the storm water, storm drain inlets, ditch repair, all piping underneath the ground, things like that. That's under their purview. Also, they take care of the street signs, traffic control, markings, all those issues. Then, of course, snow removal, any kind of debris removal. We had a pretty strong windstorm last spring and early summer. Our street department responded very well and spent many hours around the clock for the first few days of the storm, removing tree limbs around the community. And of course, they also do the fleet maintenance. They repair all the equipment for the water department, sewer department, and also the trucks that we have here at City Hall. They have 6 full-time employees and 2 seasonal employees, and also they have approximately over $1 million worth of equipment and vehicles and plows and tugs and backhoes, things like that, that all need to be taken care of and protected to prolong their life expectancy as a working vehicle. Sorry, folks, don't want to get me dizzy. The next thing on the is to take a look at the existing site. Now, the existing public works site is actually, or the main shop site is on Shawnee Street. So on the previous slide, I had as you can see, there are 3 other locations. There's the Salt Building, which is out on 79th and Sunflower Road by the sanitary sewer treatment plant. And there's the main shop on Shawnee Street and 82nd Street. And then they also have the sign shop, which is here at City Hall, which they do repair and bring signs in and actually make new signs for projects as well, and also for our street signs. There we go. As far as what we're really talking about is the main site on Shawnee Street, and this site has not had any improvements to it recently, in many years actually. Since 2000, the water department and the sewer department have all had recent facility upgrades. City Hall also had a overhaul when we were given this building by the school district. So really the street department is the one department that hasn't had really any kind of attention to it as far as significant changes to facilities and structures that they work out of. Upon our review and just looking at the items and then comparing them when we made some site visits, the Shawnee site is cramped and really has no room for the expansion. The city owns about 2.5 acres right there. Part of it is covered by the former water treatment plant, which our buildings are not being used other than a bulk water fueling station that's right at the entry to the street department site. The Westar substation is also on the site, which takes up room, and then there's auto parking for employees. Also, what runs down the site is there's a power line and several power poles that go right down through the yard area for the public street department location. Most of our vehicles, as far as our trucks and backhoes, are kept outside. They're exposed to the elements. A good example of this morning when we need to get crews out. We have to take time with the warm-up vehicles. We have to wait for the vehicle to warm up, scrape ice. Even things like the locks on the gate sometimes freeze up, and we have to spend time, actually waiting for, trying to get the locks undone. In fact, this morning Ron told me when he went down to the Salt Dome, the gate, the lock was actually frozen up, so he had to park the truck, his personal truck, had to go inside, start up the vehicle, warm it up, and then we had another driver come down, and he actually had to lift the salt over the gate to get it in the truck so we could actually start doing some of the de-icing this morning. So that's just an example of some of the things that delay our progress, delay getting calls, getting the troops out on the street, so to speak. And they're also hard. It's hard on the equipment having them outside. So just wanted to reiterate some of the things that we found. I'm not going to go through all the 11 items, but they are in the report that we found were fairly deficient in the existing public works facility. Just want to quickly touch on a couple of the places that we went to that have recent public works, and these are public works facilities. Tonganoxie actually has 12 employees, and they have streets, water, sign shop, vehicle repair, administration, and also building inspection under their facility. It was constructed in 2008, 1.8 million. And one thing that's really unique about their design is most of their bays are pull-through, so it really cuts down on having to deal with the backing up and putting vehicles back inside the building itself. It cuts down on errors by drivers, and also makes it easier for people to just move equipment around. It has a 4,000 admin area, which includes break rooms, locker rooms, and offices for the Public Works Director, and also the Building Inspection Department. Baldwin City's structure, they have a similar setup as Tonganoxie. It includes streets, wastewater, sign shop. They also have their own electric utility, vehicle repair administration. They have their codes enforcement in their building, what they're planning for their building as well. It's costing $2.9 million. You can see that 10-year period really made a significant jump in the price of construction. It has 10 vehicle bays, and it's not as big a building as the one in Tonganoxie. It's 16,500 square feet, whereas the Tonganoxie space is a little over 20,000. And knowing that our team right now is 6 people with 2 seasonals, we did try to evaluate our future needs as far as space and what we would need, even though in many ways we're very similar size as Tonganoxie and Baldwin City. But one of the items that came up was the facility that's out on Lexington Road. It's owned by Joe Roy and his partners. At one point, the council had considered purchasing this location for our street department, and we decided, since there is a potential that it could be available early this year, we thought we might evaluate and give you our opinion of its abilities to handle the street department needs. One thing that's interesting about this building is it's triangular in shape, and so while the site itself is about 3.4 acres, the actual real use area is about 2 acres, maybe a little bit more. The main shop is 7,400 square feet, and the office area is around 2,400 square feet. It would be a little bit smaller than what we need for what we're projecting out our future needs over the next 20 years. However, it would certainly be a major improvement over what the conditions are now, and also would certainly handle some growth, significant growth in the near future. We've estimated at some costs for the purchase price. There would need to be some cover or cold storage, just be an interior building not heated. Anything that does, it is very helpful to have some items out of the sun and wind, as far as and elements, even though they would not be warm. It would need a wash bay. There would be some paving in the yard, some new equipment, and some tooling and mechanical items. And we estimate the total would be around $1.12 million for this project. We have not been able to confirm whether or not it's available, but I think it would be something certainly the short term, the quick time frame to be able to move into that location would be something that the council should consider. And then if this is not a viable option, we did look at the construction of a new facility. That's on this diagram off to the right. We did do some schematic development on the size and location of the building and fit it in at the wastewater treatment plant site, which is also next to the current salt dome. This would certainly consolidate these facilities in one location. As I mentioned, it'd be good to have the salt dome and the equipment that's needed to spread salt and sand nearby each other. So this is where things kind of stand at this moment. Mike, if you've got any additional comments as we've gone through this process.
Yeah, sure. Actually, mine kind of relate to the next agenda item on the capital improvements plan. We've had in our draft plan that it's now, I think, in a state where it's out for public comment. We've had a new public works facility on that 5-year plan at the end of that. And we had estimated it about $2 million. So when we get to that item, we'll look at that. It remains there out in 2022 in the 5th year of the plan. And based on this report, I've increased that to $2.3 million. But obviously, if the Lexington Avenue property becomes available on the market early this year, I think that's something that needs serious consideration, because the cost of that would be about half. It'd be about about 1.2 million. So, but that would mean that we need to adjust the time frame for that as well. So, as Brad said in the report, I think kind of spells this out much better. The Public Works, the street department, is really the only major function in the city that hasn't seen a major improvement, a major upgrade in the last 20 years. Starting with this building, City Hall, new building in 2000. In 2006, we got a new wastewater treatment plant, and in 2007, there's a new pool. And we just spent $7.5 million, or we're wrapping that up on the water treatment facility as well. So, we got the administration taken care of, we've got the sewer, the water taken care of. The street department facility and that function is really the last kind of step. I would think in terms of city growth, you don't think in terms of capacity a lot with the public works, but it is a fact that our current situation limits our capacity to respond to things like what happened this morning. We weren't expecting ice this morning. There was some calls for that over the weekend, but and so the need to respond quickly, really the current facilities hampered our ability to do that. So I think it's the biggest ticket item on our capital improvement plan, $2.2 million. So we thought it was important to lay out the current situation, the needs assessment, and have some thoughtful deliberation as we head into budget cycle for 2019.
I also want to point out, Kevin, you had mentioned when we talked about the water distribution building, maybe we could put that on the public works site. And I just, it's a real basic layouts on the Lexington Street project. We'll put it in there, and it really just kind of chop up the yard area having that in there. But just want to point out, we did give it a look, and
thank you.
Is there other possibility of adding more like onto the building at Lexington? So when you're looking at this picture, like over this way for more Bay Area, or is there other land around that would be available to purchase?
It's interesting that you pointed out, because I wondered why there's that sort of jog in the fence line, and as you can see right by the employee parking in between and that's actually where the lateral flow for the building is, and then also in front is a detention pond. So we really can't move that fence line very well. And then the sort of southwest side, there's a fairly significant setback with the property nearby, so it's really, we could probably extend the building.
Yeah, to the northwest, just that main shop shape.
We could do that, certainly.
Which I think, a lot of that though would come up in the programming discussions
right.
of
What
the site
space they
itself,
need.
Right. Whether it's some additional land. I mean, just looking at a Google map here, I mean, maybe there's even that parcel of the north that some of that could be sold off the back and might fit in nicely. But I think in terms of procuring a piece of real estate that so closely fits the needs would be, and yet at such a huge savings would be very, a very good situation. And if after the programming phase, if everything fell out of it, the city's not going to lose the value of that real estate. That's still a marketable piece of property.
Yeah, and more specifically, in terms of the building, the structures that are there right now probably has a little more office space than we need, and a little less shop covered space than we need. But that's taken care of in the cost estimates that we've got.
Questions or comments from other council people?
So is there, And is there an action item then to allow staff or something to seek opportunities if the real estate were to come on the market?
No, there's no action item tonight. We'll know in the next couple of weeks whether that opportunity will exist, and we might have an executive session to that topic at the 18th, the meeting on the 18th. Hopefully, if we probably would have that executive session regardless. That's the plan.
Okay. So this is just information for us tonight, and are we ready to move on then to the CIP discussion? 4B?
Yes, 4B, the CIP discussion. Hey Brad, could you bring me the mouse? Oh, I know it didn't work very well. Yeah, just following up on that. You know, for the new council members, I know you probably know about where we're at with the CIP. We really our intent is to wrap the 5-year CIP up before the start of our deliberations on the budget for 2019. The current draft of the CIP shows 2018 projects in there. That's the first year of 5 years. However, really, and I'm going to go all the way to the end of the staff report where that spreadsheet is. You're not going to be able to read the spreadsheet on the screen maybe. But the first year is actually 2018, which is actually already budgeted. And so in terms of decisions to be made now, that's just budgeted. We don't have to implement these projects. We're going to decide those as they come up throughout the year. But the important year for our deliberations early this year is 2019, because we're going to be making those decisions on the 2019 budget, starting in February maybe, but certainly March through June or July. So the intent was to get the formal 5-year plan in place before we start on those deliberations. Over the holiday, we decided that we're going to present the draft plan to the public. So at the end of November, we had a public meeting here, a couple of public meetings, and then we rolled out an online survey. And as of Friday last week, when I was putting the packet together, we only had 16 responses to that survey, and it had been out a couple of weeks. And so I placed a Facebook ad over the weekend, and we got about 50 more responses. So we're close to 70 now, which is pretty good. The results of those surveys I did put in your staff report. They changed a little bit, but for the most part, if you just look at what I provided in your staff report, was a kind of a summary of the 17 people who had responded up until Friday at noon. And so I won't go through all those step by step, but in general, the people who responded were not overly familiar with the plan before they took the survey. Most of them had not attended either of the public meetings. It talks about the scale of the project. So the program, the 5-year program, is $11 million over 5 years. And there's a question about, do you think this is too much? Do you think this is too small or not enough? Friday, everybody thought it was about the right level of investment. That's generally remained the same with the additional 50 votes. We actually asked the question, how about raising your taxes? I don't know if this was a good thing to ask or not. And a little bit surprising, about half of the respondents, even now with 70 in, say no way. And then there's another half that say either sure or maybe. So I would call that about split. Raise taxes to implement these. I'll provide you further updates on the scoring of the projects. The road maintenance thing was pretty important to people. And some other projects were particularly popular. Sidewalk down to Riverfest Park was one of them. Bathrooms at Riverfest Park. Seems like the recreation stuff ranks pretty high. We'll update that.
Would you share with the people in the audience, maybe that haven't taken the survey yet, how they might access that survey?
Please do. If you haven't, go to the city's website, www.desotoks.us. At the top right of that page, you'll see 5-year CIP survey. You just click it. and it's a Survey Monkey survey, so that'll take you to the Survey Monkey site. Most people finish the survey about 4.5 minutes, so it doesn't take long. And it does help. You know, we'll include that in our deliberations as to projects that we're doing, priorities, scopes. And so it's important to get that feedback. I think we'll leave the survey open for at least another week, probably another 2, depending on where that falls. But I kind of want to wrap that up by the end of January for sure. Exhibit B on the staff report, what I've done is summarize the public feedback, and this is based on both the in-house meetings that we had, the public meetings we had here in November, and the online survey results so far. Popular projects are the extension of 91st Street out to Sunflower Road. That's pretty popular. The signal modifications at the Kaken off-ramp, I think there's a recognition that those signals don't work as efficiently as they should, so the modifications to that signal, lane improvements there are pretty popular. Another comment that we had both during the public meetings and online is that the yearly road maintenance line item in that capital improvement budget, there's a desire that road maintenance shouldn't be subject to the whim of a capital improvement. We should just budget that every year, and that should just be a yearly street department budget. Definitely can see the thought process toward that. The rest of the public feedback summaries there for your review. But we'll roll these comments into the final draft of the CIP report. Hopefully, probably the first meeting in February, bring that back as a kind of a final draft sort of scenario. Beyond that, we did just some slight revisions to that CIP, the spreadsheet. Like I mentioned, one of the other comments was we had $500,000 to fix drainage in Miller Park, and some of the feedback we got was that might be a little bigger scope of a project than you really need. Let's fix the low areas. Let's find what's there. So we kind of just reduced the scope of that, cut it in about half to about $200,000, and then we also increased the cost of the public works facility based on the new report. So just shifting some money around there.
The overall program stayed the same.
Pretty much the same, about $11 million, 5 years. So that's really the update on the 5-year CIP. If you have any thoughts about that, let me know. We'll continue getting public input and bring it back.
Questions or comments from council?
Wasn't there also some discussion that things like the gym floor, painting the pool, those are also maintenance items that really aren't capital improvement plans? Maybe even the AV upgrades, has a fairly short lifespan. It's not a capital project. It really should be figured as part of the general operations and not part of capital planning.
Yeah, that's right. We had that at public meetings. That's point.
Was there something on there about on Middle Park? We talked about one time converting the old pool house into bathrooms and then not paving, but graveling that area over the pool that was there for parking, and we had that. Did we lose that somewhere, or was?
It's still on the master list of projects. It just isn't on the one that's funded in the 5-year program. That's still that's a project we've identified, but it didn't make the list.
It didn't make the 5-year.
Yeah, it's not currently in that.
I thought we were. Okay.
But Riverfest restrooms are in that, so, or in the 5-year. It kind of.
Yeah, the one at Riverfest.
Yeah. It wouldn't, you're talking about the scale house.
Yeah, I was hoping to open up that for bathrooms now.
Oh,
at the
He's
ball.
talking about the old swimming pool.
The pool house there, which already has facilities in it, but we need to divide that up, and that'd give them more access down there, and maybe take away, are we still providing during the season portables down there? So it would cut the use of maybe some portables down there, so we wouldn't be having those in the park, and more restroom facility.
As I recall, Danny, what we had decided was, once we got a parks board, and we need to get our parks board going again, and we would, maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought we were gonna let parks, I don't know.
Try to do that.
To come up with
Look
their
at the master
what from our Parks Board perspective, what the priorities would be for projects at the park. It's kind of what I mean, it's fuzzy, but that's kind of what I recall.
Sorry, that's it.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Item C, discuss 2018 annual work plan.
Yes, council, I thought with the start of the new year and the seating of the new council, it might be good to get down on paper some of the larger initiatives that we're gonna be tackling this year. Most of these come from our 2018 budget. You know, we decided we're gonna do these during the budget process last year, and now it's time to do them. We haven't really had a process to do this, a formal sort of process with the council to establish. I would call these kind of our yearly goals. And so what I want to do is get this in front of you, get it in front of the community as well, to let everybody understand what we're gonna be up to here at City Hall and throughout the departments in the city. So what I've done is there's just a couple pages on some tasks or initiatives. Some of these a lot of these, like I said, come from the budget. Some of them come from the strategic plan. Some come from internal stuff that we've been working on. So I've broken them down into 3 categories. The first one is administrative. These are stuff that just kind of, some of these are internal to the workings of City Hall. Some of these will involve the council, or well, really all of these will involve the council. But some of these are agreements with other entities adjacent to the Soto. The second group is capital improvement projects. These are the projects that we have laid out to do in 2017. Those all have dollar figures associated with those. And then the third grouping is strategic plan initiatives. So these are either objectives or initiatives that are just straight out of the strategic plan. So without belaboring any of these or all of these, all I have here on this sheet is a task name. I think that, to the incumbent council members, maybe these are pretty self-explanatory. Maybe to the new ones, that they might have some question about what we're going to be up to. But I've got the task, and then a time frame, and then a budget. So what I'll do with these, on Thursday we're having a department head staff meeting to drill down a little deeper into each one of these and kind of assign some responsibilities and some deadlines and some coordination tasks. So we'll have a similar document internal that's a little more structured. But I just think it's easy to get to the end of a year and look back and check all the check boxes, all the great things you did. But I think it's even better if you can do that at the beginning of the year and then go back at the end and make your checks. So what we want to do is make sure that what we're working on as staff and employees align well with what the council thinks that we're working on, which as a result of the strategic plan is hopefully aligns well with what the community wants their appointed officials to be working on. So that's my goal here. And again, we don't, we go as deep or as shallow as you want with this, but and this is a document we don't need approval on it tonight. This is again a discussion item, direction, whatever you want to give. But these are the sorts of things we can look forward to as we start the new year. So I'll stop there.
Comments from council? Questions? Okay. Item 5 is executive session. I don't believe we have any tonight. Advisory reports. Mike?
Just an announcement, a couple things. An announcement first. The police department has graciously offered to have a public town hall meeting to discuss police issues within the city of DeSoto. Johnson County Sheriff's, if you're not aware, the DeSoto contracts with Johnson County Sheriff's Department for our police protection, has for decades. Every time we renew that contract, I think at least I have expressed appreciation for that relationship and what an asset they are to our community. I just think the level of service that we get for what we pay, I don't think we could duplicate that with our own police force. And I don't think I'm alone with that. But they've agreed to host a public town hall Wednesday. It's 2 nights from tonight at 6:30. We'll have it here in this room. Jeremy's there in the back nodding his head. He's kind of put all this together, Jeremy Campbell. Put all this together. I understand you've done this in Edgerton with some success, and I thought it was just a great way to reach out, kind of along the same visioning line of, our public service providers should act as a unit, should provide the service to the public. People don't care who's in charge of what, but they do want good service, and so this is a way of kind of closing any gap that there might be between City Hall and the police. So I think the agenda for the meeting is about an hour long. We'll have some comments up front from Sheriff Hayden and myself. I understand the mayor's going to be out of town.
Be out of town, unfortunately, right.
Okay. About 10 minutes there, and maybe a 20-minute presentation by the sheriff's office to kind of talk about traffic and accident statistics and maybe some crime statistics. And then a 30-minute kind of question and answer session from the city, or with the public. I understand we've got some mobile message boards out, one down at Miller Park now, or we're going to move it to Lexington maybe at some point. Kind of try and get the word out. Maybe a Facebook ad to get people here too. It seemed to work with our.
I think the message board worked. I got a few calls about what was going on with the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's a legal sign or not?
No.
Me neither. I haven't heard that either. Okay, that was just an announcement I wanted to make. I appreciate that, reaching out for that. For the next meeting on the 18th, just quick, I think we want to have a look at the strategic plan. We approved the strategic plan in August, so it's only been 6 months, but I think we want to get into a habit at the first of each year. We revise that, or review that, to see if the goals are still where they are, add, subtract, reprioritize, whatever. So I'm going to have at least a discussion item on for the council agenda for the 18th. That's only 10 days away. Also on that agenda, we're going to have some bids for the raw water main improvements. One of the last items that we need to do to complete our renovations at the water plant. So we'll have some bids at that meeting. The last thing I wanted to just quiz the council on, had a request from the fire district related to the building uptown. I don't know if you noticed, but we had a windstorm, and I can't bring it up now. We had a windstorm in August that bent the flagpole. The flagpole was bent for a while, and I understand the flagpole's gone now. You can't have a fire station without a flagpole. And so, in thinking about replacing that, the old flagpole sat on a big concrete base, and it did have a monument on it, but that monument, or a plaque, that's been since moved out to the cemetery. The question was, can we just take that concrete base out? Does anybody know of any love for that concrete base?
I would, if we could, poll our audience historian, Mr. Zimmerman. Does he have anything, knowledge of the concrete base at Memorial Hall?
My question to my neighbors here was, do we have a piece of equipment big enough to move it? No, it's probably lost its meaning since the plaque moved, but it originally was put up as Memorial Hall, former City Hall and current fire station. But for all of the World War II Soto residents whose lives were lost in World War II, so that's out at the cemetery. So personally, kind of lost its meaning. It's a big chunk of concrete.
Okay, well, if there's no objection, then I'll make the decision that it's okay.
There you go,
And then
take it out.
if there's a problem, it's my fault.
Right.
But you guys are off the hook.
Did they take it completely out, or, we discussed with some people that, Shawnee Mission had the same thing happen over there. And instead of replacing the whole thing, what they did is they took the pipe that comes up and sleeved it and drilled it and extended the flagpole off the bottom of the pedestal. Since theirs over there were the same way, it was bent up toward the top and not bent at the base. And they cut the pipe, sleeved it, drilled it, and extended the flagpole from there. They just didn't go up the stall as you know, above their unit over there, and that was a cost-effective way to fix the bent flagpole and have the flagpole. Did they take it completely out of the structure, or I don't know?
I think, Bob, do you happen to know?
Right, you can't, we've tried that, and when it's bent about that far up from the base.
Oh.
So we tried to clean it out. Even the guys tried to use some of their equipment to pull it out, but couldn't do it.
That concrete was in pretty poor condition.
It is, it's starting to crack.
It's split and cracked.
And, you know, if council would agree to it and give us a letter on it that we have their blessing, we'll find some way to move it. Unless you want it at the park.
Might be able to share some equipment or something to help with the.
Well, no one's made any promises yet. Yeah, I can provide a letter, you know, if the council, if there's no objection.
I don't have to hear any, so.
Okay. That was
Anything
all I
else?
had.
Okay. Patrick?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Welcome to new members, look forward to working with you.
Brad, anything else tonight?
Just real quickly, just looking forward to some new housing developments that Mike and I and Steve Chick have been talking to some developers about. I think we're getting some different, we have some potential different varieties of housing, you know, some different parts of the community that when we come to 40 ultimately. They haven't been to the planning commission yet, and I think there's kind of some interesting, exciting things out there that will be forthcoming.
Looking forward to it. Lana, anything tonight?
Mayor, yes, I have several things to give council this evening, but I can do that at the end of the meeting rather than take time now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor and council comments? Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and start the comments. One thing I meant to mention when we were discussing the fire board is I know the DeSoto representatives very well, and what we're doing, we're not questioning their ethics or honesty. I know those to be honest and men of integrity, and I appreciate their service. We're just questioning whether or not the city of DeSoto ethics policy applies to their service on the fire board, which may have implications as to what they would be able to vote on regarding personnel. And we're not interjecting ourselves in the operation of the district either. With that, I will have Kevin start. Comments?
No report.
Lori?
I don't have anything, just to welcome Kevin and Rob. And yourself. Moving chairs.
I'm here. Okay. Kevin?
I don't have anything,
Danny?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Kevin and Rob and you, Mayor, in your new position. And I got one question for Brad. Brad, did Water One give you any idea about closures on Cedar Creek or 85th or 88th Streets? Or did they coordinate anything with the city on the closures out there on those roads?
Well, I didn't hear a thing, Danny.
Okay, well, a lot of people got letters out there, their intent to extend their water line, and then the closure signs are standing out there right now. And are those apparently came from not the city, then I take it, right?
That is correct. They did not come from us.
Oh, okay. So I guess we need to probably know about that.
Yeah, they should be coordinating with us.
What roads were there?
Well, we just got a letter in the mail from Water One. Several residents out there got it. and they indicated they're gonna close sections, and they've got detour signs out there right now, and they've got road closed signs and stuff like that, but we don't know
What
anything
roads or
about
what
it. So,
routes or
well,
what?
it's on Cedar Creek. They're laying 900 feet of 12-inch line on Cedar Creek between, I believe, 83rd and not going any farther down than 88. So anyway, I guess the city will need to contact the people about this. They said they were gonna start next week, and all of a sudden the signs are out there now. They're not in the road, they're off to the side, but didn't know about that. So anyway, that's all I had tonight, Mayor.
Steve, did you have a comment?
Yes,
or-
the city has issued a right-of-way permit to Water One for the utility work in the right-of-way. There is no mention in the right-of-way permit of any kind of road closure.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Well, I'll reach out to him tomorrow morning.
Well, I guess I'll make a final comment. Again, welcome to Rob and Kevin. Thank you all for coming tonight. It was great to have a full house here tonight, and with that, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Don't leave, council.
And wait for.
Yeah, I